Why Rikers Island is collapsing from the inside. Rikers Island. Just a mile from Manhattan, yet it feels like another world. For decades, this jail complex has been called America's most notorious jail. But today, it's not the walls keeping people trapped that make headlines. It's the chaos inside them. Once meant to hold about 10,000 detainees, Rikers is now collapsing under its own weight. Overcrowding, gang control, corruption, and a staggering death toll. The island has become a symbol of everything broken in America's jail system. Since 2020, more than 50 people have died inside Rikers. Some from violence, others from neglect, drug overdoses, or even suicide. Each death sparks outrage, yet little changes. A federal monitor has already declared the jail system unfixable. But behind those headlines are real people, trapped in a place where the line between survival and death blurs every day. Rikers wasn't always meant to be the face of failure. Built in the 1930s, it was once pitched as the modern solution to New York's overcrowded, crumbling jails. The island was supposed to isolate problems from the rest of the city. But over the decades, instead of solving them, Rikers became a dumping ground. For the city's poorest, its sickest, its most vulnerable. Today, Rikers holds about 6,000 detainees. But here's the catch. Nearly 90% haven't been convicted of any crime. They're people waiting for trial, often stuck inside simply because they can't afford bail. For them, Rikers isn't punishment after guilt. It's purgatory before a verdict. Inside, official rules often mean little. Instead, gangs run the tiers. Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, Trinitarios. They decide who eats, who sleeps, who suffers. Correction officers, outnumbered and often untrained, struggle to maintain order. Some even cooperate with gangs, smuggling in weapons and drugs, blurring the line between guard and prisoner. On Rikers, violence isn't the exception. It's routine. Fights break out daily. Weapons are everywhere. Shanks carved from toothbrushes, even makeshift flamethrowers. Officers admit they sometimes wait minutes before intervening, fearing for their own safety. For detainees, every day is a roll of the dice. Will they make it through unharmed? New York's leaders have promised for years to close Rikers. The official plan sets a deadline for 2027. But with soaring violence, lawsuits piling up, and federal intervention looming, the question isn't just if Rikers will close. It's whether it will collapse before the city can shut it down. But what's it really like to live and to work inside America's most notorious jail? In the next chapter, we step inside the walls. The stories you'll hear aren't from headlines, they're from the men and women trapped on Rikers itself. Life inside the walls. On Rikers, there's no such thing as a normal day. The air is thick with tension, every stair a challenge, every corner a potential threat. Inmates wake up not to routine, but to survival. Correction officers call it walking on eggshells. One wrong move can turn the entire unit into chaos. Survival takes many forms. Some work out obsessively, building their bodies like armor. Others craft weapons, knowing they'll need them. Food becomes currency. Ramen, honey buns, even packets of Kool-Aid. Here, every man learns fast. You fight, you pay, or you serve. It doesn't take much. A look, a word, a challenge. In Rikers, respect is everything, and disrespect is blood. One spark can ignite an entire unit. The riot begins fast, fueled by gang rivalries, grudges, or just the need to prove you can't be broken. Correction officers admit they're outnumbered. In some jails, a single officer is left to watch over 60 men. When violence erupts, backup can take minutes. By then, the damage is already done. Broken bones, bloodied faces, sometimes worse. Even when the riot ends, the gangs stay in charge. They decide who walks the tier, who eats at what table, who lives in which cell. If you don't fall in line, you're marked. Some say the gangs have more control than the officers themselves. Former detainees describe Rikers as a battlefield, not just against others, but against the system itself. Broken medical care, inedible food, delayed court dates. They call it a place designed to break you, not reform you. Because in Rikers, survival isn't just about the inmates. The officers themselves are trapped in the same cycle of violence and fear. And in the next chapter, we'll uncover what happens when the keepers become the victims. The collapse of control. It starts small. A pack of cigarettes, a bottle of pills, a razor blade tucked in a sock. At Rikers, corruption isn't rare. It's survival. Some officers smuggle contraband to make extra money. Others do it because gangs threaten their families. Either way, the line between guard and inmate begins to blur. Once an officer brings something in, they're owned. Gangs don't forget. A guard who smuggles once is pressured to smuggle again. Money flows, violence spreads, and control shifts from the Department of Correction to the gangs themselves. But corruption doesn't buy safety. In fact, it makes officers bigger targets. Assaults on staff have skyrocketed in recent years. Some are beaten, others slashed with homemade blades. For many guards, every shift feels like stepping into a battlefield they're losing. It's not just inmates who describe Rikers as unlivable. Officers themselves admit they're overwhelmed. One federal report revealed that staff callouts and sick leave are at record highs. Some guards simply refuse to show up for duty. For those who do, the risk of not going home is real. The Federal Monitor has said it clearly. The Department of Correction has lost control. Entire posts are left unmanned. Officers skip rounds. Medical care collapses. The system isn't just failing, it's breaking. Because when officers can't keep order, when corruption eats the system from the inside, the balance of power shifts. And at Rikers, that shift is deadly. The death toll rises. Since 2020, more than 50 people have died inside Rikers. Some from overdoses, others from untreated medical conditions. Some took their own lives, driven to despair by neglect and isolation. Each death sparks headlines, but inside the walls, little changes. Inmates describe waiting days, sometimes weeks, for medical care. Broken bones ignored. Asthma attacks untreated. Men collapse in cells while guards walk by. At Rikers, a simple fever can become a death sentence. Isolation makes it worse. Solitary confinement, often used to punish, pushes men to the edge. Some never come back. In 2021, Brandon Rodriguez, just 25 years old, took his life after being placed in isolation at Rikers. His story is one of many. For every death inside Rikers, a family is left behind. Mothers, fathers, children, all asking the same question. Why was their loved one left to die in the custody of the city of New York? The Federal Monitor has already declared Rikers unfixable. The city promises closure by 2027, but every year, more people die. Lawsuits mount. Protests grow louder. Rikers Island has become more than a jail. It's a symbol of everything broken in America's justice system. Rikers Island is collapsing from the inside. And when the gates finally shut, the scars it leaves, on inmates, on families, on New York itself will remain for generations.